I don't mind.
You want to go first, Justine?
Sure.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk about a couple different assignments that I do or ask my students in my online class to do. I teach an online 231, which is modern art. And I actually put together a Google Doc with all my links so everyone could have access to them after this. So I'm going to put that into the chat. I think a couple of them won't work because you have to be logged in as me, but I think the rest of them should work. A few of the VoiceThread ones, they're not shared, but that should help us all be on the same page. So I do several different assignments, but I always scaffold my assignments, and so the big assignment though for the students in this online class, if you look at the syllabus, or I can share it if you prefer. Is they make a case for an artist. They have to make a short video. So I say between 5 and 8 minutes, making the case for their artist, giving their history, making it engaging, making us understand why they're important to art history, how they fit into the movements that we're studying, or maybe they don't. And each video they make is 12% of their grade. So I don't have any big exams. They don't write papers. They make these 4 VoiceThreads. And lots of other smaller assignments. If you open the syllabus, you'll see. But I've been very successful with this because it's fantastic on a lot of levels, but it really, first of all, enables students to teach each other. So they're able to do research on an artist like they would for a paper, and then they can present that artist and what they've learned to the class. And they're required to watch each other's videos as part of the class assignments, and to write reviews of 2 of them. So I sort of enforce that they have to have watched at least 2. But they actually get really interested in their videos, and it's clear from class discussions that they actually watch more than just the 2 that they have to prove that they watched by writing reviews. But I know that making videos is not easy, and so I also sort of scaffold those skills and help them realize what makes a good video. By each unit, they have to write 2 video reviews of like professional videos out on the internet. And so you'll see on that Google Doc, I also included a link under video reviews assignment where I lay out, how to review a video, and I always ask them to, point out where the video could be better, and so they sort of gain skills of how to critique videos, how to create videos, and I give them really extensive feedback when they create their first video, and then they take that feedback into account, and they make better and better videos. So by the end of the semester, their 4th video, since they're making 4, are usually very strong. And this is one of the things the students most enjoy, I think, in the class, because they love learning from each other, and they like there's not an exam, but I even end up learning things, and we end up covering way more artists. That's what I think is one of the key benefits, is that we end up covering an extra 7, there end up being about 70 videos being produced over the course of the semester, each on a separate artist, and so I really have made it intentional choices to choose artists, that aren't being covered as much in the mainstream, version of the class, in the textbook, and finding these artists. The students get really excited about discovering people they haven't heard of before. So I was actually going to show one of the videos, if that was okay, that they produced, to give you a sense of what they can end up looking like. I haven't used Collaborate in a while, so I go to the gear. Is that how I share my screen, or can I share my screen? Oh, share. Go to share content. Okay. Then share application. Oh, wait, but it's not going to have sound, right? Is that the problem? In Collaborate, I can't show a video because it won't have sound.
It will. If you do share entire screen, it should work fine.
Okay. Sorry. I've been teaching in Google Meet for the last year, so Okay, so hopefully you found this Google Doc, and I was just going to show the Petite Mondrian one.
There is no sound. No sound.
So you're not hearing any sound?
No.
Okay. Oh. So any other advice about how to share?
Yeah, you have to
sound?
click share audio.
Oh, okay.
Once you when you go to share a screen, there's a little box, a checkoff box at the bottom of that menu, box.
Okay. Sorry, it's been
That's
too
all right.
long. Well, that's for a tab. So I can share that tab. Okay. And then I'll share audio. Okay, great.
Along the lines, somewhere you have may seen the paintings in the MoMA or met with thin black vertical and horizontal lines surrounded by solid rectangles of white, red, blue, or yellow. Or you may have seen them in a world of architecture and design, like Garrett Field's Red Blue Chair. Or some of you could have seen this same design on the cover of Vogue or on the fashion designs by Yves Saint Laurent. You may not have known then, but you were looking at designs by the Dutch painter Piet Mondrian. Born on March 7, 1872 in Amersfoort, Netherlands, growing up as the second of 5 children in Central Holland, art and music were encouraged in the family. Mondrian is one of the founders of the Dutch movement, the Still, and is associated with neoplasticism, known for his clean lines, pure abstractions, and his creative process. Still meaning the style is a movement that did not use any natural forms and rather used pure artistic expression. The artists of the movement produced work that found unity through the relationships between color, space, line, and form. Mondrian used the opposition of asymmetrical composition and large blank spaces of primed canvas with blocks of primary colors on a tight grid of black vertical and horizontal lines of differing lengths. Mondrian believed that art reflected the underlying spirituality of nature. The subjects in his paintings were simplified to the most basic elements to reveal the essence of the powerful energy that controlled the universe. He is quoted to have said, "I wish to approach truth as closely as is possible, and therefore I abstract everything until I arrive at the fundamental quality of objects." The Grey Tree, painted in 1912, shows Mondrian's early transition toward abstraction and is part of a series of works created. A three-dimensional tree has been made flat with a color palette of only grays and black. Tableau 1, Lozenge with 4 lines in gray, was painted in 1926. Mondrian was looking to have his abstractions express a rhythm that were full of motion and dynamics. Mondrian is known for his lozenge paintings because they stand out, oriented in an unconventional diamond shape rather than his usual square canvases. He decided to turn his square canvases on a 45-degree angle with a corner at the top, so that he could create a greater tension on the picture plane. The canvas's edges added diagonal lines into horizontal and vertical lines. In Tableau 1, Lozenge with 4 lines in gray, there are only 4 black lines of varied thickness on a stark white background. Composition C, Red, Yellow, and Blue, made in 1935, is a prime example of a classic Mondrian. With a plain white background and a grid of black horizontal and vertical lines of varied thicknesses on top, there is one section of each red, blue, and yellow. Within the grid, Mondrian's use of asymmetry is exemplified in this painting. On the left side, there is a block of red in the top corner and a skinny strip of yellow in the bottom corner, while the right side of the painting has a single block of blue sitting just above the canvas edge. In 1942 to 1943, Mondrian painted the famous Broadway Boogie Woogie. There's no longer a black grid in this painting, rather it has been replaced by solid lines interspersed with blocks of yellow, blue, and red. Mondrian wanted to show the order that underlies
Ooh, Justine, I think the video stopped.
the natural world through purely abstract forms on a flat picture plane. This painting shows University, inspired by the tempo of jazz music and life within New York City. Mondrian's progression of style and vision for modern art is demonstrated in the logical manner of his paintings. Mondrian had a huge impact on the development of modern art with his refinement of abstractions and views of the world, both while he was still alive as well as after his death.
Okay, sorry about the technical difficulties. My AirPods died in the middle and it stopped the video. But so that gives you a sense of how they present a general overview of the artist's career, but then I also asked them to focus on 3 specific artworks and really analyze them based on the things they've learned in class and through their research. They have to have a credits at the end. I also have them post the transcript of what they read for accessibility reasons, but also so I can read it over. That's also where they put the image credits for all of the artworks that they show. And like I said, these have been very successful with the students. They really enjoy watching them. And I do this, like I said, peer VoiceThread review where they give each other constructive feedback and encourage everyone to improve. And so they really get very motivated and really. That's one of the things when I surveyed them at the end of the semester they really most enjoy about the class. So I've really found them to be effective. Like I said, I enjoy watching them, the students enjoy watching them, and they enjoy making them, I think, much more than writing a paper or taking an exam. And my philosophy is that the best part about this is that they get to teach each other, right? I don't just have to read endless papers about topics I already know about. I get to learn about new things, and everyone else gets to learn about new things. So that is how I use the sort of I use VoiceThread. You can see that actually was another kind of video. I actually don't care what platform they use. I did include links to actual VoiceThreads that are very similar in sort of format. So they can use whatever video platform they want, but the requirements stay the same. And yeah, so that's how I've used artist timelines or artist videos, case for videos, using VoiceThread. I also included links to a couple other artist timeline assignments that I have them do that I wanted to just briefly show because I think it's an alternative to having a video project. One uses Padlet, but also as an option, just because I find Padlet to be, the students often find it to be easier, but I actually really like Timeline.js, so I just wanted to show that if you haven't had a chance to see it before as another option to think about. Let me figure out how to share again, sorry, one sec. But I can take any, well, I guess I shouldn't take questions yet, but let me pull up Timeline. I'll share them. So that's just a link. The Timeline.js in bold is just a link to the overall program, which is all web-based. There are my guidelines for the assignment. You can see, we don't have to look at the one I made. That's just the one I give them as an example. But I'll share this as the student example. You're seeing Merritt Oppenheim, I hope. But this is an actual artist timeline. People looking to have their students make timelines. If you look at the directions I see, you'll see I have them work on it over the course of the 2-week unit, so that it's not all done at the start. They have to add like 3 artworks at the start, and then they have to add events. And
Justine,
they help each other. Yep.
Are you sharing your
you're not
entire?
seeing it. I see. Sorry.
Yeah.
It says it's sharing on. Okay. Well, let me try my other tab.
Or you can share your entire screen if you're doing that.
Oh yeah, I guess it doesn't have audio. Now you're seeing it. Sorry. Let me go back to the beginning.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. Okay, that goes back to the beginning. So it's a dynamic timeline that has images, words, text, right? And it's very appealing. You can embed it into Blackboard. Like you said, I should be just sharing my screen instead of the tabs so that I can show you. And I'll just do that quickly so that I can show you what the embedding looks like in Blackboard. But I also have them do it as a Padlet if they're not as tech savvy, because Padlet is a little bit more straightforward. But to show you. you can see the same thing here, just embedded as a post. And so then they can reply to each other. And what I have them do as part of the assignment is to suggest other artworks or other events for each other, so that then, in the following week they have to add in the new, oops, sorry, I can't look at you and look at that together. In the following week they have to add in additional events, additional artworks. So I also made a version in Padlet, which is very straightforward, which they use every week in my class. So like they're all super comfortable with Padlet. So some people choose to do a Padlet version instead. And so that's been a good alternative, because Timeline GIS is a little bit more complicated. It involves entering information into a Google Sheet. So like the way the whole thing is built is just filling out this Google Sheet, like putting the text here, putting the link here. But for some students, like a Google Sheet is too much. So I give them either option, and that worked really well, because it meant that students that were more tech savvy got really excited that they could have a really cool looking dynamic timeline, and the students that were a little bit tech overwhelmed, could just make a Padlet that they've done every week in class before. So that was what I had to share today. So I've included the links to all the directions that I give, to student examples, and I'm happy to answer any questions if people have them.
Thanks, Justine. I have questions. If anybody wants to go and build Timeline JS, where would they go for people who may not be here today and they want to tell them about it?
It's timeline.nightlab.com. So if you go to this website.
Okay, great.
And all of the information is down here. Create your spreadsheet. They give a template. You don't change anything. You just fill in the information. It walks you exactly through how to do it. So this is what I share with my students. I link to this, and they have help videos too. So.
Okay, thank you. It's really pretty looking.
Yeah, they're really pretty, and like I said, it's good because some students, it's a little overwhelming for them, and so they could use Padlet. So I like giving both options, and that way they can, for the ones who are really more tech savvy or maybe more able to use a Google Sheet, get really beautiful results. So.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Thank you. Is that a question?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Lorenza?
Yes. Sorry. Hi. Thank you, Justin. That was beautiful. It's funny because I was just asking Jose yesterday about timeline, and thank you for sharing. I just wanted to ask you. I mean, the timeline on the Padlet is that done by individual students, or can you do a timeline where everybody can populate that, or it has to be individual?
You can do it both ways. I do it both ways in different classes. So I have, one assignment where they build their own, but actually in order to scaffold this assignment, I have them all work together on one the unit before. So they all work on one together the unit before, and then they make their own the next unit. So they learn how to use it, and then, but so yes, it can be individual or it can be collaborative.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah. With the Timeline JS, you can also make it collaborative, but I find it, since the Google Sheet is a little bit finicky, not everyone's as comfortable with the sheet, it's probably better to have one student per sheet. Although, like I said, they do a collaborative assignment the week before. It just means that I have to pay a little attention to the Google Sheet to make sure it is staying correct, to stay functional. But yeah. And like I said, the students really enjoy these because, again, they get to research artists. You'll see from the assignment directions, I have them choose Connell, abstract expressionists, or surrealists, who are very important to the movement but don't get as much coverage. So they get to, again, research these lesser-known artists and bring them into the class. Lorenzo, do you have another question?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Justine, about the videos. Do you teach the students on how to create the videos, or what tool do you have them use to create videos?
So, I mean, I initially have everyone create an intro VoiceThread the first week. So, as an icebreaker, they have to introduce themselves and make a short video about their favorite artist, like say who their favorite artist is, say what they're studying. They all learn how to make a basic VoiceThread the first week of class. Then that's how I would say about half the students end up making their case for video, artist videos. They just upload the photos and they record themselves talking over it like a standard VoiceThread. But about half the students, will ask if they can use a different platform because they're used to making videos in other platforms. And so I just let them. I think they're using iMovie in a lot of cases, but I don't teach them at all. Like, I teach them how to use VoiceThread, and I'm like, this works. Like, everyone feel free to do this. But if you know a different video platform, go for it. Like,
well, yeah, because the reason I mentioned, because we've been working on a similar project like that, what you just showed us, having students create their own videos, and we were having students use Adobe Spark to make their videos. So maybe you and I can talk later on about how, yeah, that's another collaboration we can do on that.
yeah, no, I mean, I just want to make it as easy as possible. So I teach them how to use Padlet at the very start and how to use VoiceThread at the start, and they can use those, and they do use those in every unit after that. And then if they have other technologies they want to bring in, that's fine. But I don't want to take up too much of my class time teaching them how to use technology. So that's how I've structured it. But like I said, I always have them try out, like, before they have to do this big assignment that's worth more points. I have them, the unit before, test out those skills in a smaller assignment. Any other questions? Well, you're welcome to reach out to me. My email is at the top of the Google Doc. And if you have questions, I'm happy to share. Hopefully, I have rubrics for all the grading and very detailed instructions and links to videos on how to do the various aspects. So hopefully that will be helpful to you if you're interested.
Thanks, Justine. So Michael.
Okay.
Michael's going to present on how he uses Padlet in one of his classes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Hyde from English and Communication Studies. And I'm going to share with you some of the work that I've been doing in my Imaginative Worlds course in 301. Imaginative Worlds is essentially a course in world building and fiction writing, so it's both about concept development and also about the craft of writing. One of the things that's unique about the course is that over the course of the semester, each student imagines their own fictional world, which to some students entering the course can seem really exciting, and to others, not really knowing that much about the course might seem daunting on the first day or the first week. But all of the assignments in the course kind of feed into expanding and developing the student's world. So one of the things that we do early in the course is begin by looking at a series of different images, illustrations that I kind of refer to as windows into worlds, that just by looking at an image, you can kind of look at how the world might operate. So if you see pointy ears, it kind of leads you to elves and high fantasy, or if you see repetition of things, maybe some type of institutional dystopia. So just beginning looking at images and talking about the different types of worlds that are possible for students to create throughout the course. And I allow each student to choose their world type and to think about their own passions and their own interests, and then to use that to stimulate their creativity throughout the course. The first assignment that I use is a Padlet assignment, which I'll share. And as I said, I refer to kind of looking at pictures as a window into world. And so I call the first assignment that. So this is one of the Padlets. This formatting is called wall, where all the posts fill in like bricks in a wall. And I think there are about 8 or 10 different formats that you can choose on Padlet. And some of you may have already used Padlet throughout the year. But I begin with this first assignment called A Window into World, and kind of building on our discussion of windows into worlds last class. I'd like you to post a digital image, either illustration or photograph, that serves as a window into your world. And then also include 200 to 250 words that begin to describe what you see as your world's ethos at this point. So what will your world be about? How does it work? What are some themes that you're interested in exploring? And you can see here some of the students' initial posts. And one of the great things about Padlet, if you set it up as a full class, is that students are able to see each other's. And I like to begin the course this way, so that students have a sense of what each other might be working with. And this can also become a touchstone as we progress through the course. So as we move further into the course, this always serves as something that we can reference back to if I or another student have a question about what type of world is the student creating. It also gives me a sense of which students are working in which genres or aesthetics, so that I can pair some likes with likes when I set up groups a little later in the course. So you get a sense of the array of different types of worlds that students might be working with. Also, you can see some of the posts are a little bit shorter than others, and I think that's a sign to me as the teacher of the course that students are still maybe thinking about their world or trying to figure out what they want to do. So those students may need a little bit more nudging as we progress through the semester. But you can see that some students have already a very highly developed sense of the world that they might like to create. So this is the first assignment that begins the course, and it's available to students throughout the semester. It's something to refer back to. And it's something that students are able to learn from each other and begin to see from each other, which is, Justine noted, students teaching each other is really important to me as well. I feel that when it comes to writing and creativity, there's a lot that students can learn from seeing how other students write and work creatively. During the interior of the course, and I tend to use Padlet as a framing device. It kind of begins the Imaginative Worlds course and then ends the Imaginative Worlds course. But during the interior of Imaginative Worlds, I put students into what I call their creative focus groups, where there are 4 students per group, and they work with one group for the first half of the semester, and then I mix them up during the second half of the semester. And this allows them to share their work with a group of peers. I always think that writing is meant to be read by more than one person, unless it's a journal or a letter or an email. So I like them to have an audience for their work. And so far I've been using Blackboard groups for that. I think you could probably facilitate this via Padlet, but I haven't tried that yet. But I want them to kind of have a concentrated working group who are constantly reading and responding to their work in addition to me. So not only are students reading and responding to each other, but I'm also posting my feedback within the groups. So during the middle of the semester, I have students write a series of one-sheet assignments, I call them, which are literally one-page assignments in which they're kind of contributing something in terms of concept development to the world. And then they're also writing 2 longer stories that they share with their creative focus group. I'll just share a few student examples here just to give you a sense of what that looks like in the course. And these are shared with students' permission. This is an example or work by Danielle Fierro from my class last semester. And one of our one-sheet assignments was during class we took a look at field guides and the rubric that's used in field guides, both for flora and fauna, and then thought about adapting that to creating life forms within one's imagined world. So here she chose to write hers as a journal entry from the point of view of a character, Sophie. You can see kind of the labeling of some of the things, Silverbell and Flutterfly. And this actually grew into one of her stories that because she wrote the field guide from a character's point of view, she actually then went on to narrate the story from that character's point of view as if she were exploring and documenting her world. And with the one-sheet assignments, I do allow students to write and also illustrate if they wish. And there are some assignments where I actually like students to think through drawing, even though this is a primarily writing course. And I have selected some of the examples that are probably the most interesting to look at visually. There are some examples that are more writing and text-based in that sense, but this just gives you a sense of what some of the students are doing in the middle of the course. And these are things that they would be sharing with their creative focus group. So Padlet has the benefit of everyone sharing with each other, but then I like students to work for a sustained amount of time in a smaller group as the world continues to build and evolve. Here are 3 life forms by Will Munn, and his was a much more kind of a post-apocalyptic, somewhat gothic infused world. And I find too that many of the students who come to imaginative worlds, a lot of students do have drawing and illustrating abilities, even if they're not in the School of Art and Design. So allowing them to explore, aspects of world building and storytelling through illustration and drawing can be, a high point of the course. And we also talk a lot too about storytelling, crossing media forms. And I think, a good story is a good story, and there are a lot of things that are similar. In spite of what media form a student might choose to convey a story. Another of the assignments is character creation, where students are developing a series of characters in their world. And here you can see some examples from Samantha Connell. She creates a character Mauve, and a character Victor, and a character Kai. So we talk in class about character development strategies and ways to bring characters to the page and also to different media forms. And one of the things that I liked about these three character descriptions in particular is how she really gives a sense of kind of posture and body carriage to convey a sense of a character's personality and attitude, which is something that we talked about in terms of character development. And then just a final example of a one-sheet assignment that I'll share with you, also by Samantha Connell, who did the character drawings. One of the assignments asked students to create a material object in the world that serves an important function in reflecting the world culture, but also could be used in a narrative way to either as setting detail or perhaps to propel story. So one of the things that Samantha created here were service bots and service droids, but she happened to write it or to illustrate it as if it were an advertisement in her world. So adding that extra spin on the assignment, that is very creative in that regard and going beyond what I really expected for this assignment. So you get a sense of the material objects, the service bots and the service droids. We get a sense of the world based on the materiality. But even something that's really great about this particular assignment in the way that she approached it, again, something additional, is that we get a sense of conflict too between the service bots and the service droids, or kind of one model being replaced by another, and how that might lead to story. So these would be assignments that students would be sharing with their peer groups throughout the semester. And I would ask them to read and respond to them, focusing primarily on things that they like and maybe questions that they might have about the world that it evolves. Then towards the end of the semester, to come back to Padlet, I like to end the semester with what I call a world presentation. Just going over. Okay, so I'm sharing the screen. So this format in here is called shelf, so it looks a little bit like a bookshelf. And I had to manually add the names of the students across the top. It doesn't self-populate, but it's pretty easy and quick to do. And as I said, I like to kind of begin and end the course with Padlet because I set them so that they're open to everybody in the class. And I like students, even though they're working with smaller groups at different points, and I switch them up in the beginning and end of the semester. I like them also to have the experience of seeing what everyone's doing, throughout the semester. So the world presentation, which ends the course, is let's see. Please complete a separate post for each of the following: your world name and concept overview, a piece of literature, comic, film, game, or other media that's inspired you or has been helpful to your world building this semester, a favorite character from your world, and a description of a time when you encountered a roadblock in your world building this semester and how you arrived at a creative solution. So asking students to do 4 posts that kind of speak about their world building process throughout the semester. And then I also asked students to respond to 7 or 8 of their peers. So just to give you a sense of what that looks like here, if we look at diamonds, Socrates, the Forgotten, or the Plains of the Creation was the world that she created, and here she describes a bit of the ethos including an image. I think this image was created by her. Also some student commentary. I do find with Padlet, it's good if you want students to interact with each other, it's good to kind of set that requirement and the number of interactions. If you say, feel free, or I encourage you to interact with each other, they don't always follow through with that. Here she talks about her inspiration of Star Wars and some favorite characters, including an image, and then also a roadblock. Just scrolling over, you can see Jessica here. This illustration is by Jessica, and it's one of her favorite characters, Tark, who kind of lived on the margins of society, was kind of this thief that sneaks into town. It was a lot of fun to read about. And then you get a sense, just based on the images of the different types of worlds that students explore throughout this semester. I also do one myself. I do the assignments along with the students. Not necessarily to model, what's expected, but just to show them that I'm involved in the creative process as well. And one of the nice things here, which I can point out with Alexis, looking at kind of this response from Yasmin, she says, "Hi Alexis, I was in your creative focus group the first half of the semester and was very happy to read about how you ended your story. The use of sea crystals that allow you to make any wish was a very creative touch. I was happy to learn that Marina was able to finally be with Brooks without having to reveal her secret." So I like this interaction between students, and it also gives students, approaching this way at the end of the course, students who have worked with their peers at the beginning of the course, they get a chance to see how things turned out and to kind of reconnect with peers that they may have worked with, very closely in their creative focus group. So that's really, that type of dialogue is valuable, I think. Here you can see that Will is chosen to include his world map, which is one of the one-sheet assignments to draw or illustrate a map of the world that you're creating. So it gives a sense of, again, using visuals in a primarily writing-based course. I like the image that Rita chose here about her creative roadblock in the semester, and she writes about being a writer in 2 different languages. I find it important in a creative class and in a writing class too to talk about failure, to talk about struggles. I think sometimes, especially in a writing course where not all students come to a writing course with the same learning histories when it comes to writing and the same skill levels and same confidence, to kind of feature failure and to note that all writers and all creative people struggle, and there are often solutions out of that. To not think that somebody has it easy and it's just a struggle for them. And then also here's another example of a map that Yasmin has posted. So this would be an example where a student is kind of using drawing to think about their world. And we also talk about the names of places and creative naming when it comes to world building. So really this just becomes an opportunity for students to share their work and to have interaction with their peers at the end of the course. If I were teaching this in a classroom, I would probably end the semester with an oral presentation. But I like this kind of Padlet approach in that they're able to share visuals quite easily. And there's also this interaction that occurs in kind of a dialogic way along with each person's presentation so that they get that feedback here. And a great thing about Padlet, which I'll mention, I don't use it myself, but I'll show you an example of it. The great thing about Padlet is that you can share it and save it in different forms, one of those being a PDF. So if your students did work that you would want them to kind of have at the end of the semester or to kind of take away from the course, it could be a really great way of kind of building that sense of class community and also having a record of accomplishment. Here's an example of what the world presentation Padlet would look like if you use the function to turn it into a PDF. So it looks pretty neat and pretty accomplished. And the only reason that I don't use it in my courses, and I have thought a lot about it, but you know, these images that students are posting and that I'm also posting are not our own. So if you were using this in a course where students were creating their own images all the time, I think this could be a great takeaway or kind of great end cap to the course, just as a way of substantiating student learning. And then also really speaking to the work that they've done as a community. And as I'm sure many of you have experienced this year with remote teaching, and learning how to do different things, it's really caused me to think more about how I'll approach things in the classroom, how I'll approach things asynchronously online, how I'll approach things when I'm teaching a blended class. I mean, I think there's a lot of possibility, but one of my goals this summer is to kind of take a hard look at my classes and maybe break them apart and then put them back together, knowing what I know about some of the available technologies. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I have a question, Michael. I just find it fascinating every time you present your course, because there's always something new you're adding into it. I just appreciate what you've done to, I mean, it's amazing. I just can't even have words to express. But the fact that the students are following the narrative, each other's story along the way through the semester, and just that post that you showed us, seeing how the students were happy to see how the story turned out. I just thought that was really cool to see that. I wonder though, have you thought about having students work on their own worlds individually, just to have a narrative from beginning to the end, and then somehow then creating a separate path where then you can exhibit the story? But I understand what you're doing here though, because the story is developing and you want that interactive. So I don't think you can have both, but it would be awesome to see one individual story completed from beginning to end. I think that would be also fascinating to see that.
Yeah, I mean, you mean in terms of Padlet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, students are working on their own stories individually. I guess I could set it up so that each student has their own Padlet to post all of the artifacts or all of their creative pieces to that Padlet. Again, that would be something that I need to think about, how to set up that group access. So something for me to explore a little bit more. But I do like the idea of the students having a portfolio of their own work, within a singular Padlet. And they do write longer pieces in the class. I've showed you, the one-sheet assignment. So students are also writing, short stories in the 2 short stories in the range of, 5. Sometimes students write up to 15 pages. So there are also longer works that they're complemented by the shorter works, which are a little easier to exhibit via Padlet. Justine?
I was just going to say, you can just let the students create their own Padlet where they add things and they can choose the format or whatever, and then you would just need a Padlet that you created where you just linked. You can link to other Padlets from a Padlet. So it'd be really easy to just have a final sum up Padlet. I think the timeline format might actually work, where you put each student's names and then they can put comments down below the students' names and link to the Padlets, and so they could interact and see each other's whole things that way. Just an idea.
Yeah, I mean, they do amazing work, and I want them to see what each other is doing as much as possible. So that'll definitely be something for me to think about and explore. And I think this year, with using Blackboard, one of the things I've been thinking about is how much to keep inside Blackboard and how much to link out to other things, and just also students' access to different things, students' access to devices and reliable Wi-Fi. So I think probably those are questions that we're all thinking about, how those shape and inform the decisions that we make in terms of what we're asking our students to do.
Don't get too attached to Blackboard. It would be my message to students. Change is coming.
Yeah, I have that feeling. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, Antonio, I don't know, do we have any other questions, or should we?
Yeah, does anyone have any other questions?
Padlet's really fantastic, I have to say. I mean, I now use every kind of Padlet, I think, in my classes, and so I'm a big proponent. This semester, I've been using the maps one for the first time in my global fashion class. So each week they have to post an artwork from the whatever country we're talking about, and it's been great for teaching them a little bit of geography, I think. So if people haven't used Padlet, I encourage you to explore, because there's a lot of great features. And Jose, I definitely use the syllabus, like the timeline feature for the syllabus. The students adore it. It's a little annoying to set up myself, but once it's set up, the students are like, I do all the readings now because they're just so easy to find. And I'm like, okay, they were all in a Google Doc before, but I'm glad that seeing them visually helps. So the students really do seem to love Padlet. I'm sure, Michael, you've had the same experience. They really do respond to it positively. So I've been using it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, students really do love it, and as I've said before, I enjoy when I post on Padlet as well. There's something about it that feels a little less like traditional work, and feels more like playing around with social media. Even though we're still asking the students to do the creativity and the critical thinking that are important parts of learning in our courses. So I really find it effective, and I think the students do too.
Yeah, I gotta add though, you guys, both of you, Justine and Michael, the tool can be fine, could be fun and everything, but you guys are doing some amazing stuff that, just having the tool alone, I don't think you can still get the result that you're both getting there. But I just love the fact that you guys are seeing beyond what's there and taking it another level, and I think that's really, really what I'm taking away from seeing the two of you today. Like you, Michael, you were just doing a wall, then you go into a shelf template, but then and then Justine, your scaffolding. I mean, that's what I find really, really the takeaway from what I saw today from the two of you. You're seeing beyond the technology, and the good thing of the technology in this case is it is flexible in the sense that you can make it your own. You don't have to change the assignment to fit the technology, whereas in other cases, you're like, oh, I can't force the technology to make it my assignment, and so that's great. And thank you both for presenting and taking the time to show us your course.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
And thank you both. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Justine. Any other last-minute questions? If so, just turn on your mic and jump in.
Okay, thank you.
Also, as Justine said, if you have any questions, anyone's welcome to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer if I can.
Great, thanks.
All right, thank you all. Thank you. I guess thanks for coming, and we'll have a recording, and I guess we'll share the link to the video recording and via email.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Jose. Thanks, Antonia.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.